What is the biggest financial myth that people believe, and why is it dangerous?
The biggest financial myth I think that is very prevalent right now, especially right now in this culturescape, is that you can save yourself to become wealthy. And you can't do that. You can, but it'll take 30 years.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying like basically people think that if they get money, then that fixes them.
No,
is that what you're saying?
No, saving money will make you wealthy.
Oh, saving money will make you wealthy.
Saving will make you wealthy.
Saving themselves.
Well, saving themselves also sometimes.
That also doesn't work.
That is also a myth that will not. I mean, that's a good one. We can talk about that too. But what I was talking about was if you try to save, or people say, okay, 20% you put it away and you can become wealthy.
Right.
You can. It'll take 30 years.
Right.
It takes a long time. So yes, you can, but it's not what you're thinking it will do. What you can do, though, is learn how to make more. And it's not necessarily as difficult as people think. People think it's like, oh, then I have to start a business. No, none of that is required. Making more money is mostly about negotiation and skill development. And that's it. If you know how to negotiate, you can make a lot more money. And if you know how to develop the right skill or a higher value skill, you can make a lot more money. Negotiating is one of the things that I've seen Americans never do, which is weird to me, because you can negotiate everything in America. It's so funny. To give an example of a story of, like, I realized you can negotiate a medical bill in America, which is fascinating to me. I mean, we did it as a thing that we needed to do, but I was just fascinated at how much you can negotiate in America. So when we were having our first child, we used to live in LA. We had just moved to America. So I was successful, but most of our money was outside America. I had very little money here because we were just starting a new life here. So we decided we want to have a child. We were going to have a home birth. And because of that, we didn't really line up the hospital and the doctors or whatever, right? We did have one backup, but we didn't really set it up in a way where we told our insurance and all that stuff, right? Because we're going to have a home birth, right? So while we were going through that journey, a complication happened and we had to rush to a hospital. So we had our birth, everything went well. This is the son that was meant to be. This is the son that told me eventually that I'm always tired. So we come back home. About 5 or 10 days later, we get a bill. The bill was like $35,000 or something obscure, 20 to 35, something like that.
That's about right.
And I was like, babe, I mean, yes, but $20,000 for childbirth? That happens every day, everywhere. Like, Americans can't afford that, at least based on news that I see. $20,000 for a child. Nobody will have kids. Like, this is insane. How is that possible? And so she said, no, hold on. Let's call them, right? And so she calls them and she starts to say, no, we don't have money. It was not that. I could have afforded the 20 grand or whatever the bill was, but it was just like stupid to me.
Right.
And I was like, this doesn't make any sense. She said, let me talk to them. And so she calls them and she says, I don't have money. I can't pay you 20 grand. No, I'm not going to pay. Right? And she keeps telling them that, and they kept coming down in the amount that you got to pay. Like from 20, it went to 15. She's like, no way. 10, 5, 4, 3. We paid $1,000.
What?
That's what we ended up paying.
And how long were you on the phone?
Maybe like 30 minutes. It
No
wasn't
way.
that long. Yeah, because they were like, there's no way they can collect that kind of money. She was like, I don't have it. So you can do whatever you want. I'm not going to give it to you. This is stupid. I'm not going to pay you. And then I learned it's true for everything actually in America. So if anybody is listening to this podcast, I want you to start doing this. Go anywhere and ask, is there a better deal, or is this the best you can do?
Right.
So I've done this at car dealerships. I bought cars for cheaper than
I was
what they
just
offer.
about to say,
so
car dealerships are notorious. Basically, when it comes to negotiating car dealerships, the key is to outlast them. So
it takes 3 hours.
Sometimes it takes all day. But the key is you tell them your price, and then you absolutely do not accept anything except for your price. So, and if you're willing to like go the long haul, then you'll get that.
Yeah, you can do it in business deals all day. You can do it in salaries. You can do it in salaries a lot.
Right.
And there's many ways to negotiate salaries. You don't always have to take it as a straight up salary. You can negotiate in percentages, profit shares, goal-based bonuses. There are so many ways to negotiate, but people just don't try it because people think that whatever I get is whatever is the value.
Right.
And you see negotiations are everywhere. And anybody that you think is a great business entrepreneur that you look up to, you're like, that person's crushing it. They've negotiated a great bargain, 100%. All of them have. And that's one of the things that nobody does. You make more money negotiating. Like, I have negotiated myself into deals that have made me way more money than salary increases or bonus checks, right? I just negotiate the deals. Just negotiate yourself a little bit better, and you'll make a lot more money. And that's one of the things that I feel Americans just don't do.
Have you ever read the book Split the Difference?
Is this that Yeah, I know, FBN negotiator. Yeah.
Really
a long time ago, but yes, it's an amazing book, great book. But you don't even need to negotiate like an FBI guy. Like, it's way simpler. Like, he was negotiating for freaking somebody's life. None of that. Like, it's so much easier to negotiate on a boardroom table while you're salary or car buying or whatever, house buying, anything. Furniture buying. I've negotiated everything. I've made more money just negotiating.
Well, it goes back to like what I said earlier is closed mouths don't get fed.
Yeah.
So a lot of times people are just not asking. Yeah. They're not asking. Like, if you don't ask, you don't know. So, to your point earlier, is that the best you can do? I mean, and that, listen, I'm in the gym business, so we get that actually. Believe it or not, a lot of Americans are negotiators when it comes to gym memberships. So that's probably
only there. Yeah.
That's probably the number one thing we get is that's the best you can do. You can't do better than that. Like, we get that all the time.
And that's the place that you actually don't want to negotiate. Yeah, exactly. That's the funny part.
Exactly.
That's the place where you're already getting a deal.
With a negotiator.
But you're already getting a deal because a 10% increase in your health is probably a 100% increase in your income.
Amen.
Like, if you really, really get down to it,
very true.
10% increase in your health is about 50-60% increase in your energy level, which means about 100% increase in your actual income. Well, it's just what
we said. If you feel good, then normally you operate good. So feeling good is half the battle.
Yeah, and you feel good. Like, the first time you'll go to the gym, if you've never been to it, will be hell. Yes.
Yeah.
But 3 months in, you're gonna be rocking it. You're gonna feel great. You will.
No one ever finishes a workout and then says, "Oh, that sucked." Like, ever. Like,
everybody feels.
Everybody feels good after a workout.
Yes. So that's the first thing, and the second thing is a high value skill, which again is one of those things that people don't do. Is like, people would go and acquire a skill and then stick with it forever, and that's not how you really get wealthy. Wealth is about, if you have gotten a skill, see if you can up level that skill every 3 to 6 months. If you don't get better, so I don't know if we talked about it this podcast. I've done too many podcasts today, so I forget which story I told. But I went from being an intern to CEO of Mind Value, the company I was working for, in about 6 years.
Yeah, you told us that.
Yeah, which is not normal.
Not normal at all.
It is not normal at all. And the reason why I could, and of course my income increased, right? Because it's not, in the intern I was making $400 an hour, right? So I was making a lot more plus bonus stakes by the time in 6 years. And I am no special. It was just because I kept upgrading my skills. Everybody else would be like, oh, I'm going to get really good at this. I was like, yes, and I need to keep showing that I have more value than anybody else around me. Like, my skill level is so high that you want to pay me more money. Right?
Yep.
And that's how you become wealthy. And you don't have to start a business at all. Actually, most wealthy people don't start businesses. They are actually employees, they're CEOs, they're CEOs, they've done stock options or whatever. Right. They're the ones who actually get really wealthy and have time abundance on their hand. So real wealth actually is for salaried person more than the person that starts a business. The person who starts a business is miserable a lot of times because it's a lot of stress. My and a brother, lot of people depend on us.
Yeah, my brother just sent me a DM with Alex Ramosi talking about how entrepreneurs were like we live miserable lives, and be careful what you wish for, that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, I mean, entrepreneurs, like what I do is it's definitely not easy. Definitely not easy.
It's I'm sure you're wired for it.
But in my personal, so I've never worked for anybody ever, ever. So for me, it's what works for me, because I know I couldn't work for someone. So ever, because I've literally never have. I mean, other than maybe my dad, when he was, telling me what to do all the time. But that's, that's my dad. So yeah, you're 100% correct on negotiation, and then what you said that stood out to me, it's becoming better. And so oftentimes I feel like people get the degree, they get the certification, they get the job, and then they're like, okay, I made it, And to me, you never make it. Like, you're never made. Like, life is not. There's no finality. Like, until you're dead. So it's like, why not become better and then learn more skill sets. And then if you're in this position, well, what does it take to get to that position? And then finding that out and then learning that.
Yeah.
And then also too, I find that like when people are in those type of positions, I'm sure you did this. So as an intern, I'm sure you kind of saw the person that then you wanted to be. So then you learn from them. Like you asked questions and studied them and then said, I'm gonna do it better than them. And then like what I've never understood a lot of times in this, and again, not to pick on the generations or whatever, but just in general, is if someone is in a position higher than you, and that's where you're trying to go, or you have a desire to go, you might want to ask them questions. You might want to learn from them. You might want to study them. You might want to, So I feel like that's missing a lot too. Is people just think they can do it on their own, and it's like, you have to reach out and seek more than that. So.
Yeah, absolutely right. And if I may add a caveat to that, 95% of the world has never asked how to get better. If you really think about it, which is why 5% enjoy all the wealth.
Right.
It's not because they're not smart. It's because they're comfortable. If you're comfortable, you don't try to get better because you're already comfortable.
Right.
Right. The reason why the people who get better is because they're not comfortable. They want a better life, so they know they have to get better. Most others, and this is not I don't diss on anybody that does. If you feel comfortable, if you're joyous in life, kudos to you, happy for you, and I'm all for you.
Yeah.
There's no problem.
No, and I've met plenty of people that are living the dream of they make a certain amount of money, they live below their means, and they seem happy as all get out. And I'm like, salute to you. You know, I can't do that, but good for you. So I understand your point.
So 95% in any generation has been like that. 95% of people are they want the better, but they don't want to get better.
Right.
They're comfortable with where they are, and that's why they tend to not have the approach that we are talking about. The 5% in any generation always wants to get better, and that 5% usually drives the economies of the country. They are the ones who drive the narrative of the country. They drive the narrative of the world in some cases. It's always the 5, maybe 7%, sometimes 3%, but it's somewhere in that range. It's never over 10% of population that says, I'm gonna get better because I want a better life. They want the comfortable life.
Right.
And they want it at the pace that it happens. They're okay and comfortable with that. The challenge with people like you and I is we have troubled minds in a way. Right. And because we have troubled minds, we go, I can't just not do better. Right. Like I have a problem. It's almost like we have a problem.
Oh, yeah.
And because of that, we go, I have to get better because I want better. So I have to get better. And so I'm going to ask questions.
Right.
But that's always been the case. And I think there's nothing to take away from this generation. If anything, the generation that we have right now is kinder. I think they need time. They need more. They're more aware than we were ever. Like we had to fight our demons. They already fought their demons. Like it feels like sometimes to me when I'm talking to the current generation is they're like, no, I know I have a problem and I'm going to go solve it. And I'm not going to, keep chasing and let the demon be in the bag and one day it'll erupt in something stupid. I would rather just go take care of it. Now, where's that line? Debatable from my point of view. Like from your point of view, it feels like it's a little too much. I agree with you on that. It's like you don't always have to go to therapy. Like it's all right, it's fine. Like it's fine. Everything is not your parents' problem. I hear you on that, and I agree with you on that. But at the same point in time, I think they are having their own mental revolution, like we had ours. Right? We had our own demons, we had our own challenges, and we fought them differently.
Right.
They just have so much knowledge or so much information, maybe not knowledge.
Yeah,
so much information.
I would say, definitely.
So much information and so
almost
little of
too
each
much information, right?
And so little depth of the information that they have a different battle than what we fought.
What I've experienced is a lot of them are super, super smart, and they can, and they're soaking up all this like information thrown out from TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever. But then what I found, and they're listening to this podcast and that and reading this book and whatever, but they haven't applied it.
Yeah.
It's like they know it,
yeah,
but they haven't stopped and then applied it. And it's in the application that you go, It's like knowledge. Knowledge without application is like a waste of time. So that's what I've kind of experienced with the younger generation.
That's very true. And they're also really young. So we'll only learn in 10 years if they're doing it right and we got it wrong, or we got it right and they got it wrong. But,
very true.
But that's the risk of every generation, I think, is that's what makes or breaks the country also. In 10 or 15 years, you realize, well, we did it right or we did it wrong. And the hope always, at least from my point of view, the hope always is that 5% that we were talking about can drive it all.
Yeah.
Because eventually it does fall back on the 5-10% of the population. And it is not to discount
Which
90.
is wild. Like, to hear you say it out loud is...
But if you really think about it, that's
what
it has always been.
No, it's true.
It's 5 to 10% of people that drive the narrative. Even right now, like if you want to look at the narrative, whatever the narrative is out in this country or any country, you can pick a couple of hundred people that drive pretty much all of it.
Right.
Right? If they are saying something, suddenly everybody is saying that.
Yep.
Right? And you go, oh, how did that happen? When did we change that much? It's because those 10 people changed their opinion. Those 100 people changed their opinion. And you're a country of 300 million people. 10% is 30 million people. Not even 30 million are influencing. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Your 5% actually might
even
be
5% now feels more.
0.05% now that you said it like that. Wow.
Right? It's like out of all the Instagram creators and programs and people wanting to create, only 3% ever create. And they're driving all the narrative. Right?
Yeah.